This meeting is being recorded.
Good morning, everyone. I was hoping we'd have some chairs for everybody, but it seems that we fell a little short. I'd like to call this meeting to order and welcome all of you to this special meeting of the Library Advisory Board. The purpose of the meeting is today's meeting is occasioned by the Klamath Board of County Commissioners, who are also the Board of Directors of the Library Service District. They conducted a meeting last week with the district librarian and a staff member addressing complaints about a particular book being discussed by members of the library book club. A number of parties were reported to have complained about the book club, and the program conduct. So that is what the day. And I'd like to begin by introducing Commissioner Kelly Minty, the Board of County Commissioners, and liaison with us at the library. So
Thank you.
Kelly.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, for giving me a few moments to address the group. How wonderful it is to see everyone in the group in the room. I actually think it's not lost on me that our part of this discussion is around civil discourse. So I think we can really role model some good civil discourse today. And in my part, I actually baked some brownies, not realizing that there would be so many people in the room. So there's enough for the Library Advisory Board, and then people can sort of negotiate for them if anyone would like some. But in all seriousness, this is a really important topic. I, with great pride, get to be the liaison to the library. I had been sharing with somebody that just a few weeks ago, I had the opportunity to sit down with every single staff member of this branch of the library. And after I left the meetings, I remarked to our board that I was pretty certain our library staff was the most satisfied employees we have in the entire county. Our staff loves what they do. They do a great job. They are professional above all professional standards, and they provide an amazing service. And that is why you're all here, because you love the service that the library provides, as do I. I often tease with Natalie that I think I'm maybe one of the commissioners that uses the library more than maybe any other commissioner ever. I'm in here frequently as a patron as well. So I want to just sort of take off the table that this needs to be contentious. It doesn't need to be. Again, we all here can role model good civil discourse, just like the whole purpose of the book club that many are passionate about. By show of hands, who saw the Board of Commissioner meeting, the YouTube? Great. So you have a lot of information already about sort of what was discussed. I think sometimes, and I'll speak for myself, I don't want to put this on anyone else, but I think sometimes when we're in a bit of an emotional state, sometimes we might not always exactly hear everything, or we sort of hear something that feeds into what we might already believe. So I think this can be a good opportunity here today to clear up some, maybe some things that are considered a misunderstanding, and maybe get to a place that we can all feel really good about. I know that part of the discussion with the Board of Commissioners was related to the issue, and I think it's taken in some people's minds a different direction. But if I were to really distill what I believe the conversation was around, are we allowed legally to have library staff, paid staff, be leading discussions that could be viewed as being partisan or political? I will bring you, I had handouts, and I'm going to run over after I sit down and get them from the county clerk. But we had the county clerk print out and give us the citations of what public officials are allowed to do. All library staff are considered public officials. All county employees are considered public officials. And there's very prescriptive ORS around what they can do and what they can't do when it comes to anything deemed political. So really, that was the nature of the discussion by the board, even though emotions may have ran high and may have led to some additional discussion, I'll say. So when it comes down to the issue of really, if we distill it down to, can library staff lead a discussion on something that might be considered political? There can be some debate, and like I said, I'm happy to share the ORS. But what I think is a better solution is to look for alternatives that everybody can agree are a good one. And I've spoken with Natalie about a suggestion as an alternative, and that's why I respectfully addressed the Library Advisory Board. I think this is a really good opportunity to get the Library Advisory Board even more engaged with the library and or citizens. And I see Chuck in the audience with Braver Angels. He's a trained moderator. I think this is a great opportunity to bring in either volunteer moderators and or Library Advisory Board members to lead the book club discussions rather than paid library staff. I think this gets at, again, a good compromise. This allows there to not be any gray area whether public officials are doing anything political on public taxpayer money, but also allows the library book club, which many feel is very valuable, myself included, to continue to operate. So that is my offer to the Library Advisory Board as liaison to the Board of Commissioners, that I think a good compromise that addresses the needs and allows the library book club to be able to continue is to have the staffing taken over by volunteers. I hope the Library Advisory Board will respectfully consider that. And I did speak with Chuck of Braver Angels, and he was one of the first ones to say, that sounds pretty cool. I would be willing to moderate that. So I humbly and respectfully offer you that. That's my piece. I do see my colleague, Commissioner Hensley, in the room. As liaison to the library, this was sort of my forum, but since he's here, I don't know if he would like to add anything to that. Well, Chair, I'll turn it back over to you. And then Chair.
Commissioner Hensley, would you like to make some remarks?
Thank you.
I had you still in Salem, but.
No, came back because I wanted to see y'all. So for those that I haven't met, I'm Dave Hensley, one of your county commissioners. I think Kelly articulated that very well, and she's really good at taking a deep breath and expressing herself in a very positive way. So she's the liaison to the library, so I was going to defer everything to her today, but I thought it was important that I come in and say a few things to you. I'm going to start with this because I think it's really important you know this about me, what defines me and who am I as a human being. I think that is important that you know. Core principles that I live my life by, and I raised my children with the same. Number one is value people, all people, value people. Everyone has value on this planet, and I respect that. Number two, be accountable to other people. I'm not just accountable for my own actions. I believe I'm accountable for you and what you believe in. And I think that's part of the reason why I ran for county commissioner. And I care about people, and I'm accountable to everybody around me. And the third thing that's really important for me is find strength in our differences. I agree, and I like when people don't agree with me. I like to hear other people's thoughts. And I'll tell you what, the last 5 days, I've heard a lot of your thoughts, And I'm going to go back, and I've done a lot of self-reflection. Another thing that's really important for me is when you make a mistake, to say you made a mistake and tell people, and be the first one to say you made a mistake and learn from it and move on. Life for me is nothing more than a series of opportunities for me to enrich my life and enrich the lives of people around me. And I take that very seriously. So I apologize for the way I responded to this situation. I could have handled it, and I should have handled it a lot differently. I should have been much more open to listen before I gave my opinion. That being said, I do want to express my opinions because I think at the end of the day, all of us in this room have the same opinion. And here's what I mean by that. For 28 years, I was a police officer, and I fought for your constitutional rights. Every day, every minute, that was important to me. Many of you know how I handled some civil discourse in Klamath County as the chief of police here. And I've got a lot of praise for the way I handled a lot of serious political issues we had in Klamath County the last couple of years I was a police officer and as your chief. And I'm extremely proud of that. What I'm getting at is this. I do not believe in censorship, period. I do not believe in banning books, period. And I do not believe that government in any way, shape, or form should censor or be involved in your rights of free speech, free expression, free religion. That's why I ran for commissioner. The issue that I have right now is that, let me give you an example. We have county parks. Taxpayers fund county parks. And that's a safe space for us to have rallies, protests, events, birthday parties, whatever. But government does not get involved in that. People can express themselves however they want, and it should be a safe space to express yourself, period. That is all I care about. So my concern, and the reason this came up with me, is having paid staff moderate a political discussion. That one's kind of hard for me. If the book club meets in this space or whatever safe space that the county can offer and have a conversation about anything under the sun, God bless you. But I just don't think it should be moderated with taxpayer funds. We had all kinds of complaints about the haunted circus at the fairgrounds, and my response on all those complaints was, don't go. It's freedom of speech, it's freedom of expression. We've had complaints about City Fest coming up, believe it or not. And my response has been, don't go. Don't go if you don't want to go, but people get to exercise their freedoms of speech and expression. So I felt that was important that I articulate that to you today. I should have done a better job taking a deep breath and articulate that in a manner much like this. I got a little emotional, and for that I apologize. I think that's a learning opportunity for me to recognize in a public meeting. You should be a little bit more prepared for that conversation and not have an emotional knee-jerk reaction to it. But at the end of the day, I'm still struggling with taxpayer funded and somebody perceiving that government could be leading a political conversation. I'm still stuck on that. So keep in mind, I'm more than happy to talk to you offline, but I don't want to like take over their entire, hold on, let me finish.
You were at that meeting 2 weeks ago, you, Kelly, and Kumar, and you were moderating at a table, political discussions, both of you. Your taxpayers, like, money.
We're elected. That's an entirely different
Yes, but
topic.
it wasn't just you, wasn't it? It
I
was
don't know
other
what meeting you're
county
talking about,
employees. It
so
was other county employees that were moderating as well. Was that illegal?
I'm not sure what you're getting at.
Was it illegal for those county employees to moderate?
I don't know what you're getting at. I can't
At that
answer.
meeting?
What meeting? I don't know what you're getting at.
The meeting that you were at 2 weeks ago.
Oh, the strategic planning meeting? That was for the citizens.
Okay, so those were county employees moderating discussion at every table, were they not?
Somewhere, yeah, there were some county employees there, correct,
is that
talking about our
illegal?
strategic plan. I believe so.
Is that
Yeah, I believe that was completely legal. So if you have more questions for me, please call me, text me, email me. Let's go get a cup of coffee. I'm here for you. I represent you. I represent all people in this county, even other sides of this debate I represent, but I'm here for people. So if you'd like to talk more, please give me a shout. I'm more than happy to do that with you. I don't want to steamroll your meeting, so I'm going to let you all talk. Keep in mind that we have a 1 o'clock that we have to go to our business meeting. So if we have to step out, I apologize. And I guess I'll leave it at that. Thank you for the opportunity to express myself a little better. Just call me, okay?
At what point is there going to be a public back and forth with
It was
government
advertised public
officials?
comment.
Yeah.
At this meeting, it was advertised as public comment. So if you're not here to hear our comments, when will you be
Well,
available to hear our
we didn't
comments?
advertise that. I apologize.
Well, it was advertised to the,
I didn't do that. I don't know anything
you're here
about that.
now,
Right.
at a meeting where the public has been told, we're gonna be able to comment.
What does this have to do with the
Well, not-
It's later on. But there's no back.
Just a minute, please. After Commissioner Kelly, Mindy gets through with her comments, David has given his comments already. We'll have a public comment period. And I wanted to say that the meeting last week was videotaped and has gone viral locally, raising the issue of censorship and public concern, which needs to be addressed. The Library Advisory Board need to hear your concerns and viewpoints in order to get the broadest range of viewpoints on these issues to provide us with policy and operational options in order to maintain a system of librarian, staff, and board of directors. And that'll be taken up in a little while. And I want to say that if you choose not to want to talk at this time, or you write some comments if you wish, and send them to the library, to the local advisory committee care of the library, and we will include those in any deliberations we have. We realize this has got a lot of complexity in it. And so we will follow through. The library advisory board will contact the public when an operational plan is finally approved. And we've heard everybody's information on it. We've agreed with the commissioners and the library. And so if you you have to sign in and leave us your email contact, we will be able to contact you back after this is done. It's going to take a little while, but we want to hear the concerns at this point so that we can accommodate the largest number of people in the county. Lois?
So the thing that we haven't covered there is the legal citation, and Commissioner Minty is looking for that, because that's really what that hinges on. The Hatch Act does not, my reading is it's very similar to the Hatch Act, and that's specific to campaigning, would not cover a public employee being a moderator, remembering that a moderator's job is to keep things from getting too hot. Think physics. You put the moderator to keep the reactions going. An example of that would be a high school speech teacher could not campaign for anything that was on a ballot or try to organize a political thing. But their job is, in fact, to organize and moderate political discussion all the time. So it really hinges on how this is read. And so that language is extremely important to us. And I don't think we can have a very good discussion until we have the actual language in front of us, because I know the typical language wouldn't cover it, but this is a specific. And just keep that in mind when you're commenting. We do have to have that language.
Natalie's right there.
Yeah, but
This was sent by the county clerk.
I'll read it. No public employee shall solicit any money, influence, service, or other thing of value, or otherwise promote or oppose any political committee, or promote or oppose the nomination or election of a candidate, the gathering of signatures on an initiative, referendum or recall petition, the adoption of a measure, or the recall of a public office holder while on the job during working hours. However, this section does not restrict the right of a public employee to express personal political views. My reading of that is the same as my reading of the Hatch Act. It does not cover discourse on social issues. That is my personal reading. I talked to someone who has more political and legal background. That was their reading, but I am not a lawyer. That's my comment.
What was this going on during this book discussion, any of that?
No. None of us have attended.
Yes.
And does
Stand
the library policies and procedures include a definition of the word moderator? Oh, does the library have, in effect, in some of its policies and procedures, what the definition of a moderator is and what they do? To clarify that. That might be helpful, because my understanding of a moderator is keeping the peace while people discuss. But if that isn't aligned anywhere in your policies and procedures, it may be unclear.
It sounds to me, and I wasn't there, but I would take exception to the notion that this was a political conversation. Nobody was campaigning for anything. Nobody was asking for money. And if we're not gonna allow people to have challenging conversations in a public library, we're in real risk, and that's what we're modeling for our children. And I'm sorry, but we have to be willing to have conversations that are uncomfortable. And what I heard at the previous meeting that I watched was that two of our commissioners didn't want these conversations happening because they were controversial. That's not political.
All right, yes.
Thank you, Chuck.
Could you
Commissioner,
I'm sorry, you were just speaking, weren't you? Oh, I'm sorry, I wanted to call on her first.
So my concern is I am a public school teacher. I am a public employee. So if we're talking about moderation, it's exactly what we said. We're talking about controlling it from getting out of hand. Now, these same rules then, you're telling me that I cannot moderate my students having a political discussion because it makes you uncomfortable. And I 100% agree that we need to have a safe place for discourse. Moderation is how we do that. If you have outside moderators, then you don't know that they're trained for such. You don't know what their expertise or bias
That's right.
are.
Yep.
To look after the library. Now, what I'm also concerned about is I'm a citizen of Klamath Falls that got very publicly attacked by an elected political figure last summer. None of my commissioners stood up for me then. I was called a pedophile and a groomer by an elected county official at some point for suicide prevention activities that I was planning. So my guess concern is that none of this was a big worry until you felt the topic was icky. And that is not how we do public discourse. Everybody, icky or not, deserves a safe place to have discourse.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Chuck. Please. Try to stand up. Commissioner Nimke mentioned my name twice, and appreciate that. I've been in touch with Kelly for quite a while and talked to Commissioner Hensley a few times. What I heard him saying last Wednesday is not how I understood him to be, and I really appreciate his acknowledgement that the way I understand it, he was emotional and spoke a little bit beyond what he stands for and is expressing today, and I truly appreciate that. I think we've all made those kinds of statements in the past. This is not the time that he and I could have a debate about political versus partisan. I hate partisanship. Politics is everything, everywhere, all at once.
Yeah.
But that's another time. I agree that a librarian should be free. Part of their role is to facilitate such conversations, but I'm not here to argue whether that's within this domain or not. I'm an advocate for having facilitated conversations, moderated, reasonable conversations on political issues to address partisanship and try to reduce the hostility and conflict. Kelly mentioned that I'm participating with Braver Angels, and I'm a part of that, but lately I've been more involved with two other national organizations. One is Essential Partners, the other one is Local Oregon Humanities. And there are between 6,000 and 9,000 organizations in this country which you've never heard of, which are all working on this same purpose. Kind of surprising we don't hear about this much. And that's a real problem in our nation and the world. I've been to 2 days of training with Essential Partners and 2 days of training with Oregon Humanities on how to facilitate group presentations. And I don't really have much of a clue how it's done, but I can tell you it works. People of different opinions are designed by nature to come together and talk about this stuff civilly and understand each other. So, and I, as Kelly mentioned, I volunteered for this. I'm representing a small group of people. I'm almost done. And I can't name them, but we're trying to work for something of this nature in this community. Thank you.
The gentleman in back.
3 points I'd like to raise. One, I appreciate the offer of having perhaps advisory board or community members is not right. I think that would be preferable to not have the book club. But my preference would be for library employees. They have more control over the space. They're more familiar with it. If something does become an issue, they're in a much better position to either moderate the conversation or say the discussion is staying there. I would much prefer to have an employee do that rather than a volunteer. Second thing, I'm very concerned that the commissioners made this decision without consulting the advisory board first, without any period of public comment, and this is happening after the fact, after there was a reaction. There are policies in place. County commissioners are the board of the library, but they are not supposed to make policy decisions like this without consulting the advisory board first. If such an event should occur in the future, please, before making a decision, meet with the library board. If it does represent a change in policy, please notify the public beforehand so we can come. I'm glad everyone showed up, but for some of us, it was kind of last minute to know this was happening. So.
Gentleman here in front.
Is that me?
He's not been called one.
And I gave you my seat. I'll stand over here so everybody can hear. I'm really curious about what the concept was that is considered so controversial. So if somebody could explain that to me, I would really appreciate it.
Good. Yeah, I'd love to hear.
So of that, I could speak to that if you'd like me to. Of that particular book that the complaint was raised.
Can you speak up?
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
So the particular book that a citizen called the library about was called No More Police. And it was written by two women. No More Police, yes. It was written by two women, and it was addressing their views of all of these questions we have in our country about police force. Should we abolish? Should we change? Is it good? Is it bad? All of those issues. So that was the content that people would read ahead of time and come to the discussion ready to talk about. Did you agree or not? This particular book group has been happening since August of last year. And I could supply a list of books I don't remember offhand, the list of books we've done, a different topic every month. I know that one was about, it was evicted was the title about, yeah. And so we've done a lot of different topics, and this one was the one that got the complaint in April.
My
Yes.
question is, do the members of the book club select the books they read?
They don't select them, but the public, we had a link on the website associated with the book club, or anyone in the community could suggest topics or specific titles that we could discuss. And then there's a vetting process, right? The person running the group knows who's usually in attendance, what of these 100 topics would they most be interested in. And then there's a vetting by me, a professional librarian, where I read reviews, I look at the book, I read more information, and I decide, is this book a good one for discussion? If people read this ahead of time, would they come and be ready to discuss the issues?
So the objections then was to the book, and these people
Originally,
objecting. I just want to know.
Originally in April, we received communication from a gentleman in the community objecting to taxpayer funds being
And
used.
he had read it?
No.
Oh, wow.
He's not read the book, and
We
he's
had
not a member of the
one gentleman over here.
Did
We're
not
gonna have
attend
one person
that we know
talk at a
of.
time, please. And he's the next one.
Just, I guess first an observation, then a concern. Observation, thank you, Dave, you just started that. Honestly, that camera, that was wonderful. My observation came off as disingenuous, though. You literally apologized to the group for not listening, and then you stood in front of us, and I get that wasn't a great time to have a back and forth. That wouldn't have been a good format whatsoever. But making it clear to the room, public comment is going to come, and I'm here to listen, would have gone a lot further than, no, not right now. Email me, and oh, by the way, I got to be out here at 1. That just came off as very disingenuous. When many of us are here because we were shut out of the dark at the beginning. So if you're going to apologize for not listening, please follow up with some active listening. Maybe in the future on a Saturday would be wonderful. my main concern is when can we decide what we can talk about? Last fall or winter, there was an awesome Photo Voices project, agriculture in the basin. I don't believe it had a discussion like this in a room, but it was meant to spur discussion among citizenry as they came in to our wonderful library. And I mean, I don't know how, unfortunately, but that is political in this basin. Our water use is political, and agriculture is political. How is anything, as referenced earlier, going to be considered not political in 2023? That's the unfortunate reality where we're at. And to further society, we need to have these discussions. And personally, my opinions on these books and things don't really matter. I probably disagree with a lot of it. But it scares me more than what's in these books than not being able to talk about.
Okay, the lady in back.
Sorry, guys, I'm like a little bit cut off. I wanted to first say that I was so proud of our library staff for how they handled themselves during that meeting, and I felt like I heard you repeatedly ask for direct guidelines and specific information and repeatedly fail to get that. And I think that is essentially because what is political to them is whatever they don't like in the moment, whatever they get a complaint about. And I think that if you are getting calls from people who say that they don't like the topic, invite them to come and share their opinion, because I believe our library staff is more than capable of handling those conversations. And I believe that our library staff is more than capable of reading and following the laws as they are written. And I think that there is no aspect of what happened that went outside of the bounds of that illegal nature that is, they're trying to sort of scapegoat now that they're in trouble a little bit with the public for what they have already done and said. And I think that we get to the point and the purpose of libraries. And I believe that libraries are a place where no matter who you are or what your opinions are, these are places for the public discourse to happen. So like the Black Lives Matter protest where we saw people with guns come out, that doesn't happen when we're allowed to have safe, moderated conversations like the ones offered by our library. And I am so proud of our staff here, and I think that the essential misunderstanding is the difference between political and partisan. And I think that there have been times throughout our history that things have been labeled as political, from interracial marriage to the internment of Japanese Americans and other Asian minorities. And throughout our history, there will be things that are labeled as political because they're controversial. And I think that this is one of those moments. And just because someone in the community didn't like what was being discussed, didn't mean that they were banned from the discussion, kicked out of the discussion. It meant that they didn't like it. And I think that our libraries are the spaces where we can have those conversations. And I was so disappointed to hear our county commissioner say that there is nothing political to be discussed in the libraries, because our lives are political.
Okay, now the lady in back.
This is from the manual on restrictions on political advocacy by public employees. Sorry, this is from the manual on restrictions on political advocacy by public employees, which says a forum to allow political proponents and opponents to debate ballot measures may be held using public employee work time, so long as equal access is granted. It goes on, public employees may use work time to arrange a forum and may perform administrative support functions in conjunction with the forum and may attend on work time. Meaning that political discussions are totally within the purview of public spaces. And library staff are allowed to perform administrative functions specifically to allow political discussions, regardless of whether or not someone considers the topic political. It's kind of a moot point because they're already allowed.
I watched the recorded meeting from May 3rd, and one of the things that I heard frankly disturbed me. One of the men in the meeting who was not.
A little louder, please.
One of the men in the meeting whose position in city government I do not know, seemed under the impression that on the opposite side of the political spectrum from liberal Democrats sits white nationalists. He argued that if the library continues to hold the social justice book club, they would then have to let those on the quote other side speak. What actually sits on the other end of that spectrum is not white nationalism, but conservative Republicans or even perhaps libertarians. While I know that he was arguing that white nationalists should not be allowed to have meetings in the public library, his words are still dangerous ones. White nationalism is not a legitimate political ideology. White nationalism is a doctrine of violence and hate. Racism is not a type of free, protected speech. Racism is hate speech, and the crimes that white nationalists commit are hate crimes. The existence of white nationalists, though, should not be used as a reason or excuse to stop citizen voices from political discourse of any kind. White supremacy is not part of everyday politics, and it is not letting the other side have their say. It is an atrocity. I'm from Oklahoma originally. I was 5 years old when Timothy McVeigh bombed the federal Murrah building downtown in Oklahoma City in 1995. My parents lost a friend that day, and hundreds in the Capitol lost loved ones and children. Timothy McVeigh was a white nationalist, and his white supremacist views were the reason behind the bombing. White nationalists and white supremacists do not get a seat at the political table. They are domestic terrorists. But that does not mean that other political discussions should not be allowed in a public space and in a public library.
Okay, the lady on the screen has the floor.
Emily, it's your turn. Can you unmute?
Hi, everyone. Nice to see you. My name is Emily O'Neill, and I'm the chair of the Oregon Library Association Intellectual Freedom Committee. And I'm here largely as hopefully a resource to this board, and if they're willing to have me, the county commissioners. There's been a number of fallacies in the arguments that have been stated, largely including intellectual freedom and what it means to uphold the First Amendment rights of the citizens of that county and of the United States. Ultimately, information is offered to us in a variety of different ways, and some of the arguments that were made around books are the exact same arguments that really should be upheld for the scenario of presentations, meeting rooms, programs, all of the rest. So the role of the library is to protect the intellectual freedom and information needs of their users, regardless of the format of that information. So whether it's a book or a program, it's the same rules apply. I would also urge the commissioner, the library does have a policy in place for reconsideration, and the same policy should be followed regardless of who the complainant is. So if a commissioner needs to or feels the need to reassess a program, they really should be following the policies that are already in place by the library. We have a lot more to share, and I don't want to take all of your time, but I want you to know training is available, and a lot of the points that have been made really don't uphold the intellectual freedom requirements of a library.
Yes, you, yes, indeed.
And I'll just jump on that, and I'm gonna kind of put the screws to the commissioners here. I'm an attorney, don't hold it against me. When I ask the judge for something, the judge says, what law says you get that? So I generally don't walk in and ask for something unless I can get an answer. I wanna know which attorney, it sounds like there's some legal arguments you guys are making, you consulted, if you got a memo, if you actually go through the process of seeing if your legal arguments were accurate. Who did you talk to about this before you gave the decision?
No, this is the, this has the legal citations from the county clerk that we just received.
So
And
did you
saw
consult
in
an attorney before you terminated this?
I saw in the meeting how that went.
I'm gonna give this up
And probably a third.
Well, did he give you any advice before you made this decision?
That was our space to get advice from him, and everybody saw that watched the meeting.
So you consult with your counsel before or after you made this decision?
That was the space where we got that advice.
Well, I would strongly encourage you, before this gets litigious, to actually like do the research and decide, hey, this professional attorney isn't defending us, he's telling us what the law is. Because that's a much better place to act. And that's the end of, I'm not gonna say anything else, but, I mean, I mean, Hensley's telling us, hey, we have parks that are taken care of by the county, that you can protest. We have libraries that are taken care of by the county, you can't protest them. You can't really. I apologize. You heard what he said. You can't distinguish the two. And if you talk to an attorney, you might be able to get stronger hold on what, as commissioners, you're pushing forward.
I think that I'm Sally Will, and to me, the biggest issue is the word political. And they were asked, the commissioners were, the library folks tried to get a definition from the commissioners what they thought political meant. They didn't get that in that meeting. And, you know, I really struggled with that because political does not have a negative connotation in my mind. Political is generally the important question that need to be discussed and talked about at any given time in any given place. And unless if we decide that political things can't be discussed in the library, which I certainly hope that is not the decision, you at least have to define it and say what it is, because that's ridiculous.
I didn't call on you yet.
She did. We talked this thing.
Now speak.
On Sally's comment, I'm thinking of a feminist meme. The personal is political. And therefore, that would say just about anything we ever wanted to discuss here would be political.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm not going to add a whole lot here. I think Courtney has excellent things to say, and I just want to echo pretty much everything everyone is here to say. I'm a lecturer in composition and rhetoric, writing, and how you talk to people at Oregon Tech, where I also have to navigate that fine line between I don't campaign in my classroom, but I make material and discussion space available so that students can discuss in the classroom. It's the same laws really that govern the library. There has not been a misstep of that here. And I want to say, because it seems like the commissioners are coming against this point, like, well, what are we supposed to do? You know, I heard Derek DeGroot in the meeting saying a lot, well, perception is reality. Perception is not reality. And when members of the public come to you with a concern, and it's a misperception, they say, they're stumping for a political group here. You need to say to them, you know, the answer to misperception is to correct the misperception, right? Your job as commissioners can be to say, hey, I feel you. They're talking about something that makes you uncomfortable, and you're a little afraid that your rights are being violated. I'm here to tell you, though, as your commissioner, I stand with our librarians.
Yes.
Right? They give a space where everyone is welcome to share whatever point of view they want on this topic, right? They are within the law, they are within the rights, and moreover, they are supporting the goals of our county. That's what I expect from my commissioner.
I'm Stuart Decker. I mostly am just trying to read through this handout that just got provided to us. On the screen, there was earlier an ordinance that restricted or that detailed the restriction of public employees from advocating or essentially campaigning for a nominated official or something like that. This one is a little different, so it's great to read it, but apologize, I've had this for like 35 seconds, but the two sentences on here that it seems like, my guess is that this decision is based on, was a public employee cannot engage in political advocacy, including promoting or opposing a political position while they're on the job. And then a public employee cannot give a speech or presentation advocating a political position if they are on the job, which still doesn't seem to me like it, like moderating a book club does not seem like at any point during that moderation, you're either giving a speech or giving a speech or giving a presentation advocating for a specific political position. That's again, 35 seconds with this, right? There might be other things in here that were the origination of this idea, but if those were the places where this concern is coming from, then I think it might be misplaced based on how I understand moderation.
On the bottom of page 11, top of page 12, it specifically addresses meetings and forums. So that's the best place to sort of focus in on.
Public employees may attend meetings at which political issues are discussed, so long as they do not engage in political advocacy themselves. So, it sounds to me like the question at hand is, are library employees engaging in political advocacy while moderating said book club? And I guess perhaps there's some like questions of definition in there, but it feels like the word moderator is opposite of the word advocator.
Yes.
I am speaking for myself. Right now, I am on my lunch break and I cannot give advisory opinion, nor will I. But Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or of the right of the people to peaceably assemble, or to petition the government for a redress of grievances. That's why we're all here. That's what we're all doing. And that is the Constitution, and that is where the law starts. Everything that flows thereafter is reflected on the First Amendment, the Constitution.
Hi there, David Scott. I watched the meeting and there was a lot of talk of like, let's keep politics out of the library, but under the definition that was kind of in a fuzzy way thrown around in that meeting, this meeting could be considered political. What we're having right now. And so this feels like a healthy like discussion. This feels like an appropriate use of the library to me personally here in the moment. And so I find some great irony in talk of like removing this kind of thing from this space. So because we are here now.
Yes.
What brought me here today is that I see this trend, and this is what concerns me, because I do respect the work you've done for Klamath Falls. I voted for you, Kelly, because I remember watching you on the news, right? And I'm like, yeah, I found a woman in there, young. And now though, I just see the same thing happening. Everything I fight for is to bring the voices of Klamath Falls to the podium. Because what I've seen happen to our town is we've breeded all of these pockets of hate and silence because decisions are made by a very, very specific demographic. And now this same thing is happening. None of this would have happened had it not been about policing, had it not been about one of those just highly charged, like conservative things they keep around their baskets of cares. If it was about that, this never would have happened. But because it's about an issue that affects those very voices that have little ground in this town, you all thought that you were like Klamath gods. And you made decisions that I don't believe that you were in an elected, official, or legal position to make. And that's ultimately why, because I am very concerned, because I was born and raised here, and I want to make it better. This is a place for all. And you start that by not making decisions in a closed little room without asking all. Thank you.
I've got two haven't spoken yet. Yes, sir.
So the Board of Commissioners is banning a book club because some right wingers got upset that other people in their community were reading a book that said some meany things about our brave police, and it hurt their feelings so much they called the commissioner Dave Hensley and had his phone ringing off the hook. He put it himself. Hensley claims this is because, quote, everyone is upset that they don't support this and their taxpayer dollars are supporting it. They don't believe that was appropriate. And quite honestly, I agree with them. So I think government must always be politically neutral, end quote. Well, the fine citizens that the commissioner agrees with seem to disagree that this is an apolitical action. In a celebratory Facebook post, someone wrote, quote, attention, thank you to everyone who called in. Our commissioners listen. This group is no longer tax funded. This is amazing. Call the county commissioners. Let's end this before these idiots get their teeth sunk into our community. I live in a rural American farm town where these values, although legal and constitutional, are just not welcomed by many. I pay taxes. In our hometown, the taxpayers have a say in where our money is spent. I feel that these values don't need to be funded here. Maybe in some liberal town elsewhere in Canada or England, or for that matter, France. But our nation has laws, and those that support defunding our police force need to move elsewhere. If our commissioners cut the budget to the library, they understand that we won't tolerate that kind of stuff in our community. Under no circumstance will I allow our community to turn into Portland or Seattle, end quote. This reaction was prompted by a group of at most 6 adults discussing a book in this library for a couple of hours. This is crazy. It's authoritarian. And the Board of Commissioners is supporting this and not being politically neutral. They are supporting a political side and silencing any forms of political dissent by closing this book club and banning any political discussion at the library. This is not an apolitical action. So much of this conversation has revolved around how the taxpayer feels. Well, I'm a taxpayer in this county too. Do my opinions matter? Does my perception of this government's political bias matter? As a taxpayer, I'd say this book club is a worthwhile thing to spend my tax money on. But my opinion doesn't matter to the Board of Commissioners. The only opinions that matter to them are those that come from people that politically align with them. Even if those people never use the library services and never come to the book club.
That's true.
This notion that this club is only being banned because the library must be political is a smokescreen. Smokescreen for censorship of free thought and expression that I thought freedom-loving Americans were all about. I don't need social critique from a book I'd read in this club to tell me how undemocratic this process is. Commissioner and former Klamath Falls Police Chief Dave Hensley made it plain as day when responding to the idea of hearing from citizens like me who disagree with this decision to ban this book club when he said, quote, you can have 100 people tell me I'm wrong and I will not change my mind.
Yes.
She's had her hand up.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Mine is very short, but last time I checked, US invades countries that are authoritarian and would try to spread a democracy, freedom of speech, freedom of expression, equality. Who's gonna invade us now?
I wonder if we could hear from the moderator, the person who's moderating the group, what your view is.
I didn't moderate it, but I can go get the person that I assigned.
You know, to see what types of things, how will she be handling it?
I'll run and get them. Yeah, I'm in charge of scheduling and the final selection of books and training the moderator in how to do that. So I'll go get that. I'll be right back.
And also, I was a public servant for 25 years in California community colleges. I was certainly paid by the state of California. And I certainly couldn't convene arguments, political arguments, support different people's positions. I'm in a position of inviting all the sides. It's very difficult to do. And I went home many days unhappy with how I performed and trying to learn better. But it isn't my position. I must talk about politics in my class, and I was a paid public servant. But I'm not supporting any political view. I'm just supporting their right to give their views. And somehow I never got censored for it.
Just one quick thing. I spend all my time working with children. And things are very basic at my level. And I've always said, and I joke all the time because I teach a lot of student doctors, that if you just learn one thing a day, you're doing okay. I would suggest to the commissioners that, and I would like to thank the public who came out to represent the community that I've been a part of for 20 years. And I would suggest to the commissioners, my appreciation that you were willing to come to this, because it's not easy when you know you're gonna have people unhappy. But this is a great learning opportunity, because this is the community of Klamath. It's not one or two people who get offended about a book they haven't read.
Yeah.
That's just unexcusable. This is the community. People have to be able to talk to each other. That's what we have to model for our children. Not that we can't ever change somebody's mind because our position is right. My God, I'm wrong every day, and people trust their children's lives to me. Please learn from this.
Is there anybody on the other side that can comment online? Where are the people that are against this book? Like any of the comments in the chat anywhere, or did they don't have a voice in the right forum?
This is a public meeting, everybody was invited, and this is what showed up.
So that's why I just making sure we're scanning the comments, because I was like, maybe there's some online that have something to say on the other side. That doesn't look like it.
That's just my observation, that not to judge this as not a complaint, you're advocating for what I believe in, but this is a partisan group. The phone calls Commissioner Hensley got was from a partisan group. I think I'm promoting the idea that we get both sides involved. That's it.
So, Chair, if I may.
Yes.
So we have our 1 o'clock business meeting across the street. It's advertised every week. I have to begin that meeting, so I do have to step out. I will await a report from the advisory board. I think that's probably a good next step, that this is an advisory board meeting, which means they're taking in feedback and then they give feedback to the Board of Commissioners. So meantime, anyone is, email us, call us, come meet us, speak with the advisory board. I'm very open. I just want to reiterate, I'm proud to serve as liaison to the library. It's a great honor and a joy, and I do support the work they do here. And I deeply appreciate those who have came out today to spend your lunch hour or more with us.
So where is this?
I think there's.
Advisory board will take so the advisory board in general, maybe people don't know this part of the process. The advisory board is an advisory council to the Board of Commissioners. So we will take their feedback they'll give us feedback that we will then take and consider. And we'll make sure everyone knows none of this, it's all done on YouTube. I mean, it's not secret, it's a public meeting. So I'll look forward, and I hope everyone also gives major kudos to the advisory board on there. They've been doing this a long time, and they do
I want to say one thing I was going to do at the end of the meeting, but this is good. If there's anybody who feels that they don't want to speak out in this meeting, they are welcome to send in a written statement to us. And that goes for whoever is in the community. And we'll see who's interested enough to make their opinion known.
So I have been sitting here thinking about the experience of checking a book out. You stand there, you present your book, the person behind the desk checks it out for you. Almost never in my experience of picking books and DVDs off the shelves or ordering books through interlibrary loan, has that person behind the desk said to me, "Oh, you're going to read that?"
They get fired.
Never. And I think, they are all taught. You don't comment on what patrons are taking out. And therefore, the library is a sacred space where you know, you can learn about anything that you want freely without danger. You can explore anything. So I think maybe that's why what has happened here hits us all in the gut so much, because it calls into question that sacred freedom. Amen. So that's what I wanted to say.
Yes.
So I just have a question. At the last meeting, you had asked for the clarification, and you said, well, what about this program? About that program? If the other programs go down, I don't know how many people know this. Battle of the Books. It will go down too, correct?
Well, anything that was perceived as having a political.
That is for our kids. I'm a homeschool mom. That teaches them perspective. That will go. That is for our kids. The state of Oregon sets that list. Not us, not them. This has such a huge domino effect. Sorry, I am not great at public speaking, obviously. I'm not but here's the deal. If you don't want to read it, don't. If you don't want to talk about it, don't. I have read some of the books. I am not good in battling people. I'm really mean. So I just don't do it. But hey, one person, seriously, my daughter is in 6th grade, and every single book that Texas and Florida has banned, I have made her read 260. I didn't do it. The fact the thing is you can my hands. I'm holding a movie about the Holocaust, for God's sake. So I grew up with a very politically boisterous grandfather. I refuse to let someone else teach my daughter how to think things through. I am not afraid of speaking, but I want my daughter. I have so many amazing articulate beings way better than me. I want her to be that. And the only way that's going to happen is by an education. And I didn't like what was going on and what was being taken out and what was being discussed. So therefore, when she walked into this building at the end of 3rd grade because of COVID, she wouldn't even talk to the librarian. She was so afraid to. And now she's on her same basis with like 6 of them. So the domino effect. This is literally one adult trying to tell adults what they can read, which is insanity to me. But let alone the domino effect that goes through this. Although I don't know about foreign affairs, but now I'm going to look. Does this domino to the kids, because some of those books, not while, massively engrossed, you could look at some of the topics and think they're political. And Dr. Graham was my daughter's doctor, so therefore, to see her here and angry is insane. Where does it stop? Where does the line stop? So I applaud you for saying, I know you wanted to scream way more there. I can see it, but I just believe that if someone doesn't like it, there's the door, because there are vast many books that I do not agree with that are in here. I have never once challenged them. Why? Because it's not my business to. If someone else wants to pick it up and fill their brains with crap, go ahead. I choose not to. So where does the dominoes end with all of this is my question. Because Battle of the Books is state. And those kids work so hard. And they debate each other, and it's beautiful. Is
And it's monitored by the library staff. The Battle of the Book is always monitored by library staff.
Chuck, should we read some of the comments online?
Yes.
Okay, do you want me to read it?
Yes, if you do that, Lois.
Okay.
Lois is going to read some
I'm just going to
comments
read a
online.
comment that's online so that they get more of their participation. The robust exchange of ideas and opinions is fundamental to a healthy democracy. Providing free, unfettered access to those ideas and opinions is an essential characteristic of American libraries. Therefore, libraries should encourage political discourse as part of civic engagement in forums designated for that purpose. Libraries should not ignore or avoid political discourse for fear of causing offense or provoking controversy.
Are there any others you want to read that right now?
If you want me to. Someone said, I have to get going now, but I want to say I support our amazing public library, its efforts in supporting free speech and its engagement with our community. I look forward to any and all updates regarding this matter. And while I'm up, and before I turn it back to Chuck, can I remind you that as an advisory board, we want to hear from you every month, not just this month. This is actually our emergency meeting. We meet the third Wednesday of every month, and we love your input. We're not paid people, we just represent each of the branches. And if you live outside, you're in Bonanza, then contact your advisory board member if you don't feel you can come in, and make sure your concerns or just interests are represented. Thanks.
Yes.
12 o'clock.
12 o'clock here or on Zoom?
I'm easily confused. And when I heard one of our county commissioners say how wonderful and terrific the library staff was, why doesn't she let them do their job and just stick to her purview? She's not a trained librarian. The people who run the library are. Let them moderate the groups that are held. And if people don't want to be part of the discussion, that's their choice. But we need to put our trust in the hands of librarians who are trained and qualified to do the job of opening public discussion and public discourse and provide people with the resources they need to be well-informed citizens.
We had a request for
The moderator.
the moderator. and
I have sense of
Nick.
humor in this thing. Hi. I guess, what can I, like, it's so odd because it really was just a book club. Like, honestly, it was I tried to get, Charlotte and I both tried to get books put together that were topics from the news. For example, other books were about redlining and its role in like socioeconomic issues, native rights issues, like, and it was just, when I was putting the list together was months and months ago, and a lot of the cop stuff was kind of in the news, and I was like, I should probably throw one in there. Like, really, that was about as much like preparation for controversy. I knew the group has a pretty wide range of political opinions in terms of like where they would sort themselves on some kind of left-right spectrum. But really the discussion was like, did you like it? Like, what anecdotes spoke to you? Like, very like broad questions. And so, yeah, I'm just sort of, the situation has taken me a bit by surprise.
So this discussion on no more police has happened?
Oh, yeah. It ostensibly took place last month. One person came, we just sort of chatted for a little while and then was like, hey, let's be done. And then I didn't think about it anymore until right now.
This is over one
But
person?
typically the book club meetings have been like between 8 and 12 people, sort of depending on how much people like the book. I just assumed everybody hated it and didn't show up. Like, okay, they can't all be winners, fine, this one's a dud. And again, didn't think about it until just now.
So, Susan, oh, no, her hand's gonna go on.
Person in the back.
Yeah, somebody help moderate because I can't.
Chuck is. Hi, I'm going to apologize in advance. I'm not very good at public speaking and my thoughts are not that organized right now. But I do think it's kind of strange that we are having this discussion when it doesn't even sound like the person who had the complaint read the book.
Yeah, no, I, to be clear, the person who at least I've seen on Facebook going, I'm going to make this the commissioner's problem. I don't recognize that name. So far as I know, they have never been, never came to a club meeting of any kind.
Okay, I just. You're doing very. Compose myself a little bit. It's a very slippery slope when we allow these knee-jerk reactions. And from what I know, this person read the title, didn't like it, maybe the summary, and didn't like it. And they didn't think to read it and come and bring their discussions to the club. They just like, I don't like this, and this club needs to be banned, or it needs to have, I think that they really wanted it banned. I don't think that was, I don't think that it was like, oh, we want someone else in it.
And again, to be
They just
clear,
wanted the
not
discussion to be
everyone in the
stopped.
group liked every
And that's a
little
really
bit.
slippery slope, because we see across the country, there are libraries that are being shut down, they're being defunded because people don't like the books that are in them. And it's, where does it stop? Because are we gonna like not allow government classes to have political discussions in high school? Because I didn't know my teacher's political ideology, but he was there to moderate. And we had really good political discussions as 17, 18-year-olds. Is that gonna be not allowed anymore? It's a very slippery slope, and I don't know where it ends.
I just want to propose to the library council that you not capitulate to this. We don't need a volunteer moderator, we need the librarians to moderate. So that's what I'm gonna encourage you, not compromise, that's not a compromise. It's right. So I'm gonna encourage you to not capitulate, because that's a slippery slope. When you start capitulating there, you're gonna have to do it somewhere else, and somewhere else, and somewhere else. Stand our ground here.
I just want a clarification. Did you face any personal harassment due to this?
No.
Okay, that's.
I largely have been like at the periphery of this whole thing. I really appreciate Charlotte and Natalie doing the grown-ups part of this.
Now we all know who you are.
Yeah, so like, it feels weird to be sort of like both the center and the edges of this conversation. But nobody's been mean to me personally. I'm not sure that people in this discussion really know who I am.
Now we do.
Well, I was just thinking, if this person that wanted this No More Police book banned took it by the title, it could have supported their position.
I agree that it is a provocative title. I think that was part of the point on the part of the authors. And that especially out of context on like the header of a bulleted point on the calendar webpage, like it looks a little jarring out of context. I will grant him that.
That's the point of the.
But like, that's the point, exactly.
Was there a back and forth discussion?
About this book? No, like I said, one guy came.
With the one
we were
person
sort of
who
like,
came to the meeting?
Not really. There's not a whole lot of discussion to be had if it's just me and some other dude, like. Right. Ideally, I'm looking for at least me and the spider. So that way we can make sure that both of them talk an equal amount, but if it's just us, like, if we're just hanging out, we might as well do it in the hallway.
I know.
All right, I have one on the screen, one of our members, Spider from
No, it's
Great River.
Yeah, you can hit that ask to unmute and it'll.
Lower hand, ask for.
Yeah, that'll put a prompt.
Spider, you're on silent.
Oh, okay, can you guys hear me? Hi, my name is Willa Paulus and I live in Chiloquin. So I just wanted to say I support the library. I lived most of my life in Klamath Falls, and all my children are adult children now, but they pretty much grew up going to the library. And I'm somewhat of a tribal rights advocate and a tribal historian, and I wouldn't have been able to do any of that or gain any of that knowledge without the library and access to the documents the library has, because they have a lot of resources. And like being a tribal rights advocate, I had to do a lot of research like on, water. We all know water is like an important issue in the county, but I got most of my stuff from that library you guys are sitting in. And I support it 100%, but I just want to know, I actually have to jump off and I can't be there in person because I'm at a convention in Idaho right now, but I want to know like what community members can do to support this effort. And even if we can do like fun stuff, like have a book club to specifically read banned books to support this effort. I just want to show support and have any suggestions to what we can do to help. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Spider,
What?
Spider, did you want to speak?
No. I have nothing to say. Oh, the only thing I have to say is I am not going to moderate a book discussion group. I live out in Sprague River. I'm disabled and I have no interest in being a moderator, even though I'm sure the county commissioners would love for me to volunteer.
Thank you, Spider. Oh, yes.
I'll just go.
There was some discussion that the name of the social justice book club should be changed. I like the name social justice and I don't think it's political.
What's the objection to social? Is it political?
That's where social in it?
Yeah.
Just-
Admittedly, it's a fraught term in some spaces for more than one reason, like, so I get that, like, people would interpret that as thinking that we were supporting a particular viewpoint on any one of these books. I'm not sure though that, like, I don't know if there's a better, the discourse, like, what do you label it, like, public events, or, you know what I mean?
Fight Club?
Okay, right. White sweater.
October 1st through 7th, Banned Book Week, we're way ahead of it.
And, on the issue of the name of the club of social justice, it's worth thinking about the end of the Pledge of Allegiance, with liberty and justice for all, and putting those two words together translates into social justice.
Okay.
I just want to say that I have attended one of the sessions and no one has ever said a political viewpoint or said this candidate should do this or we should elect. They have never, the moderator has never said, here's a political viewpoint that you should agree with or anything like that. It has always been moderation. And so I did not attend the book club for this last month. That was the police book that I've attended in the past. And it's just a book club. Like, it's literally just, we read a book about evictions in the United States during the 2008 recession. And then we came and talked about it and talked about the rules of, how it worked and the different anecdotes in the book. And it was not a political discussion in any way in the sense of candidates or ideology or anything. Like, Max never said anything like that. So I just want to make that very clear that that's not what actually happens in the book club.
There's someone that's been on
I wanted to say thank you for Emily from the Oregon Library group about talking about educational freedom. Working in the educational piece, that's really important for me to be able to teach what they need to be able to teach. They also need to be able to talk about philosophical theory, and that is what I think this book club really is. It's talking about discourse and Socratic method and how do those people come to those conclusions in those books. Now, they might be politically charged because there's laws based on those, right? Or laws in society. But right now, at this moment, it's philosophical, right? So if we're not gonna allow that in the library, where are we gonna allow that? And that's what bothers me to me, because I think people should have opinions. They should be able to talk through them. Not everybody believes in the method, right? But there needs to be questions and there needs to be answers, and people should be able to come to whatever conclusion. So I see, although that we want to always talk about the politics of it all, it really isn't that. It's the discussion and the philosophical about it. So, for example, when I studied philosophy in college many years ago, we had a philosophy of law class. We talked about all sides, yeah. Did you talk about stuff you didn't believe in? Yeah. Did you find the basis on which things were discussed? Yeah, but you still had the discussion. So to me, it can be separated, right? But the moment you go off of a tagline, even when we vote, we go off taglines if you don't read the synopsis, right? That's what's hard. And so I just wanted to put that on record, that's the way that I see this discussion. Could be like a new title, possibly, but just an idea there.
Yes.
I'm curious by the library. I think it was you, Charlotte, who said that you train the moderator and you discuss on how to go about doing the book club.
Yeah, I was literally about to say, like, I was under explicit instructions to bring up viewpoints that the room wasn't thinking of, even if they were not necessarily my own. Like, just to go, well, some people say this, kind of.
So I would make sure that the commissioners understand that and maybe clarify what actually a moderator is, as well as, I'm not sure if the commissioners have even gone to a book club and understand how discussion is done. And so maybe they need to join, one of the sessions and actually see how it is.
You can just ask because people are complaining, have none power.
It was really important to me. I did August. In August, we read a book called How to Read the Constitution and Why, and I actually had the author visit us online and we had a discussion. And then I moved it sort of to NAC moderating. And they and I pick titles together and talk about that. I read the reviews and vet the titles that are suggested to me, that it's quality, that it's going to make it a good discussion. But it was really important to me as I passed that to NAC that they completely understood. You should lead the discussion and nobody should know what you think. And the commissioners are, in my opinion, making a misunderstanding that they know my politics. They don't, and I haven't expressed them, and I would, you know what I mean? Like they're assuming from the title of the book and the title of the program, they know my politics, and they don't, because that's not my place. So it was really important to me that NAC all of that.
Just one thing to clarify is that although they pick and we take their recommendations as the professional librarians, as the advisory board, we actually do see these lists.
Yes.
And so there is a process in place to have.
I even had a form on the website that you could click through and go, what top, I didn't want to just pick stuff that I thought was interesting. I was like, if there's something out of the news that you wanted to talk about, let me know. Did not get super great participation in that form, but
And we do, and she was saying about the report. I mean, monthly, I create a report for the advisory board that lists, these are the movies we're going to watch next month.
Yeah, these are the titles.
These are the books we're going to read next month. So it's not just me making those decisions. We're kind of a team working together.
And they commented that they did not read the report.
They've never read the report.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was.
I did notice that. Yeah.
Okay.
So there's
Second.
has a comment there.
One.
No, I was just looking at the comments on the computer.
My main issue is that the commissioner did not direct the complaints to the advisory board. The commissioners were not prepared, nor was the lawyer. The commissioner didn't even know that they get a monthly report. The lawyer didn't have a clue how our county library is run. They jumped on this without being prepared. So, sorry, somebody just read my mind.
I have a question about process, because obviously the county commissioners have said what they said and give the directives they gave. What can we, as people who are opposed to that closed door decision, do now?
There's a process.
Vote them out.
We have offered to listen to you all today, whoever came. And we have also said if you want to write any comments, you can. We're going to try to look at all of that and look at our policies that exist and see what may or may not be required to change. And we will have a follow-up where we'll get back. We'll probably have to have several sessions with the Board of County Commissioners or our directors. So there's a distinction without a difference there, unfortunately.
So for the time being though, that means that like what they say is law, is policy?
Yes.
I'm getting a nod.
Yes.
So we would have to raise a little hell maybe to.
Well, we will maybe have to hold another meeting or two like this, saying here is what has happened, here's what we've decided on, and then take it from there.
Do they have the
Thank you so
final
much,
decision? Do they have the final decision?
She wants
Do
to
they
know
have
if the
the
county
final-
commissioners have the final
Do they have
decision.
the final
Yes.
decision?
Yes.
They are,
Yes.
You present
Yes.
stuff, but they actually have the final decision?
yes.
Yes and no.
Yes.
Yes, because we've done this with county commissioners on other things, where they want to do something that is actually illegal. They can say they want to do something, they can try to pass it, but if it does not meet a legal standard, they can't do it. And that's why I was so concerned about the statute. When they tried to defund us, that was not legal and they couldn't do it. So it's a yes and no, but right now it has to stand.
I want to say one more thing about the arrangement, and that is that the library service district is a separate taxing entity and has to have directors. And the agreement when we put the proposal forward back in 2000 was that it had to be the Board of County Commissioners that would be the directors. There's no firm procedure involved in that. And they've been ignored. They've ignored their program with us pretty much when we've gotten into some situations and we've had to justify our position. And so we've always relied on the public. We have a number of different sub-libraries around the state, around the county. And we cater to their interests for the books that we select. And we have a representative from each one of those that comprises the advisory board. So that is the democratic way we've been operating.
How are you? This gentleman.
Yes.
Again, I get easily confused. So I'm wondering if the county commissioners read the book.
No.
I was a high school teacher, and one of the books I was compelled to teach, because it was on the list of books to read, was a book by Shirley Jackson called We Have Always Lived in a Castle. And the blurb on the back of the book said, someday Shirley Jackson will be burned at the stake for her spellbinding novel. So I had a parent come and said, I don't want my child reading this book about witches. Having not read the book. It's not what the book was about. So I said, okay, I'll have your child read another book. Lord of the Flies. They didn't read the back-to-back book, which was much more controversial in terms of the role of religion in the life of people. If the county commissioner hadn't read the book, they were basing their decision on ill-informed information and let one or two people override the good of the many. That's not tolerable. It's not.
So is there like a time and space to open up? Because I know like for today, this is a really hard time for, like, I took 4 hours of my own personal time off to be here. And she has her homeschooling kids, like she had to put her mom in charge to be able to be here. So is there a time that's not at lunchtime in the middle of the week that like the public can gather? Because I know there is exponentially more people from my demographic that are pretty heated about this, and they would be happy to lend their voice, but it needs to be
different time.
access. Like a
We can
Wednesday and
conduct
a
it in the evening.
Yeah.
Yeah, to do something like that for, I mean, when it comes to these like really important issues, because like I see a lot of teachers that are on this Zoom right now, and I'm guessing that they took time off, maybe got subs, or they're on their prep periods. Because I am pretty much going to show you the educators, I'm sure are pretty invested in this as well. So I think that, yeah, it just, I would like to see that happen so that Klamath, the county commissioners can truly see the people that are behind this.
We set this as quickly as we could
No, this
after
one I
that
know.
meeting in order for this to occur. And we are pleasantly surprised by the turnout and getting more information, and we will select a better time for
A few more
a regular,
days work.
so we don't have a crunch.
When do you want the written statements? Set a deadline.
If you could give them to us within a couple of weeks, that would be very good.
Can I-
The ideas get told after that.
Chuck, we
Yeah.
would like to have them before our regularly scheduled meeting, the third Wednesday when we meet at noon. So that we have the most, because we will have a serious meeting at that time. Does that work as a deadline?
Sure. Get the Monday before so you can co-op.
And there's
Monday before the.
Hang on a sec, folks.
I just want to say, another way that you can have people who want to make their voices heard by the commissioners is go to the commissioners' meeting and speak at their public comment. It has to be pretty succinct, but it would indicate to them also that there's a broader, even broader. I think they were impressed today. I think they.
They
were surprised.
For now.
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry, but we have to leave.
It is 1:35, and I think it's time to adjourn, and if you want to have some further conversation, and not part of it. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you very, very much.
Yes, thank you,
Thank you,
Lord.
I was just like.